Good morning. Is that sunshine in the rain? New day dawning. Somehow everything's the same. Sun keeps rising in the east. In the belly of the beast, that's where I'm from. The city that always sleeps. The city that always sleeps. The city that always sleeps. The city that always sleeps on the road.
Now, as I previously mentioned, we do have a very special guest in the building here today. This interview has been supposed to happen for a while. It's been a while. And with no further ado, we got Justin Trudope, not Trudeau, Trudope in the building. He is the pop prime minister, and man, it's an honor to interview you finally. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I just smoked the prime minister pre-roll.
Yes, sir. He came ready, ladies and gentlemen. He had the prime minister pre-rolls ready to go. I got one for the ride home, so I'm kind of happy myself. You know what I mean? We're going to be trying that out, but we will definitely be talking about your products a little bit later on. But before we do that, let's kind of introduce the listeners to you a little bit. I know for one that you're pretty big into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So you were actually in Cali training with the likes of Eddie Bravo, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. You know, for all of my podcast listeners out there, they're shitting in their little pants right now. I was kind of, when I saw that, I was like, damn, he's doing it right now.
Yeah.
He's doing it right now. So I want to ask you first and foremost, how does jiu-jitsu and a career potentially in jiu-jitsu translate into being the prime minister of pot?
Good question.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Because I really want to know.
Yeah, so I think I come by it honestly. As you know, Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan have paved a lot of the way for the movement.
Absolutely.
Not just for cannabis, but I think for just drug use, like ayahuasca and all these sort of things, right? So I'm just a part of that mentality. I came up like that. And yeah, as you said, I started at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, actually here in Verdun, which is where we are right now, down the street.
That's right.
Yeah.
1195 Delicles, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. Proud. So I trained there for about 3 years, then I trained at TriStar for about 2-3 years, living in the gym, sleeping on the mats every day, all day. And then I decided, hey man, I want to take this even further. So I left, I went to California. 3-month road trip across the states. I did fundraisers to get across. I hitchhiked. I did everything. I slept on the floor of everywhere you could imagine. When I got to Cali, I trained hard with Eddie, with all these people, all the 10 Planet system, and a lot of other famous mixed martial artists. I was also a journalist for Vice, and I was doing a lot of that work too, so I had a lot of access in that world. And anyways, one thing led to the next, and I started doing a podcast randomly, an MMA podcast, but I also was doing a cannabis podcast on the side. And it got popular, man. I just started getting sponsored real quick, and a lot of good energy was behind it. So next thing you know, I'm a host of a pot podcast, the Popcast. And I have all these growers and all these people from the legal background, all these different people from the industry in Cali that I was learning from and I suddenly had access to. And I decided when I would come back to Canada that something that I would continue was what I learned out there. So I made sure that when I came back, before I got back, I was going to do something very calculated and take not necessarily a risk, but go for it. And I decided to create the character Justin Trudope, the Prime Minister.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of weight behind that name, and there's a lot of responsibility I have to take in the legal cannabis world with it. But I decided I'm going to be that satirist. I'm going to be that guy, and I am the Prime Minister now.
So let's bring it back to Cali before we get back to Montreal a little bit now. Because, I mean, Cali being one of, if not the pioneer for, maybe not the legalization, but definitely for the industry, the commercial industry of marijuana. Of course, Colorado has taken that crown now, and Washington State as well. But how much of what you learned in California sort of prepared you to tackle an industry that hasn't necessarily been set up per se in Canada, at least on the East Coast as of yet?
So, thank you. The way I like to put it is I saw the future. So I'm here right now and I feel like I'm ahead of a curve that everyone else here is just they're just a little behind, and I don't blame them. They're behind in education, they're behind in the economy of it, they're behind in a lot of ways. So I saw the future and I was immersed in it. And I kind of know what's about to happen 10 years from now. And I'm already trying to get ahead of the curve now. So to tell you the truth, it wasn't, I mean, I'd gone to Colorado a lot, and I was living in California for 2 years, but a lot of my education was done in Las Vegas, which recently went recreational, but at the time was medical. And I was dating, so my ex Lara, shout out, I was dating her. She was the manager of Reef Dispensaries, which is the largest dispensaries in Nevada and Arizona.
That's great.
That's the Jungle Boys, that's all that burner stuff, that's Wiz Khalifa, that's all that. So all that cultural movement you're seeing with celebrity growers and how they merge into the hip hop community. I was dating the manager of the facility, so she was just bringing me that fire daily, and she was just teaching me about like everything beyond just bud tendership, but the entire business and how to go about it. I learned a lot in Vegas and I learned a lot in Cali, and I just decided to keep that somewhere in the database so when I got back I can deliver.
You definitely had the drop on just about everybody out here, because like you said, it's still, pun intended, a budding industry, especially here in Montreal. I feel like there's obviously areas like BC that are a little bit more progressed than we are just in terms of the commercialization of it. One second, there you go. So let's talk a little bit about law enforcement, both in the States and here. How's the perception? First of all, we'll start with the States. Pushback from law enforcement. How is it?
In California, it seemed very laid back. It seemed like nobody I was around really took it that seriously, or the law very seriously. So everybody could easily get a license. Everybody was easily in that medical realm. They can go to dispensaries with like no problem. And they didn't seem to feel any sort of pressure from law enforcement. They were just drive around DUI style. They were, their cars were filled with that stuff. I mean, I had friends with a big bong in a bag right on the seat next to them, driving 180 down the highway, not kidding. Just Cali living like free, like
that's crazy.
The police.
So all the stereotypes are essentially true, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it actually is exactly what they say or what you think it is.
DJ Blaster, we gotta move to California, guys.
Yeah.
That's insane. So let's talk about that in regards to Montreal now. Would you say that Montreal is just as lax, I doubt it, as Cali? Or how's the law enforcement been have you been approached, is what I'm trying to ask by law enforcement?
Let me just first say that after I lived in California, I moved to Vegas, like I said, and on 420 I actually got evicted for smoking weed inside. The cops came through, and then you could tell it's a different world. This is conservative America now. This is Trump America, and those guys came in like they took it like a drug, like it's a narcotic. So I was kind of scary actually, and you could see just the vast difference between someone from Nevada's way of thinking and someone from California's way of thinking. So moving on, Canada. We've always been more progressive than all these people. To tell you the truth, we were Cali before Cali when it came to laid back, just lifestyle smoking cannabis or cannabis use. But I can see a trend now where part of this medical or legalization, which is a bad word to me in a lot of ways, is to re-bring the idea of prohibition and taking things even more serious than we ever have.
Absolutely.
And I'm not really for that. I think they're going to try and create something that doesn't exist. And I think a lot of people are going to get in trouble for reasons they don't deserve. So I just know that we don't have a problem with law enforcement pressure, but I think moving forward as it gets more legal, we're going to see the opposite out of their attitude.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you because everything that I've read so far about the legalization, on the one hand, yes, it's going to be legal, but on the other hand, they're going to be infringing upon a lot of people's freedoms and everybody's freedoms, really and truly. Everything's going to be really closely regulated. Prices are going to skyrocket. I don't know if I'm really for the legalization at this point because honestly, at this point in my life, my access to cannabis has always been very easy to get, very, very well priced, if you know the right people, and the stuff is good anyway. So it's not like really legalization is going to necessarily open up some door. Allegedly, of course. It's not necessarily going to open up some door that has never been opened before. In fact, it almost seems like it's going to open up doors that we don't want it to open, as you were alluding to.
Tech, I appreciate you having me here today because this is truly actually just a platform and an opportunity for me to say something that really needs to be said, and that's that legalization is not what we need. It's really decriminalization and privatization.
I agree.
And if people got educated on the subject a little more, they would know that their government who apparently is the people, is the government. I don't know about that, because if you ask the people, something is about to happen in our country that we don't want. And that is, legalization is great in a lot of ways. It's going to bring about a new era and push things forward, and I appreciate that, but it's the wrong approach. So we got to be careful with how we allow them to push us over the next decade. We got to make sure we take our stand and make sure things are done right, because they just want money. They just want taxes, and like Emery said, it's sadist. It's a little bit like being Jewish and giving your money to the Nazis. It's a little bit like that.
Damn, dropping knowledge right now. Well, listen, we're gonna cut to some music because this is starting to get a little bit talk heavy, but don't go anywhere, and that goes for you, the listeners, as well. Justin Trudope is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. We have just begun to scratch the surface. So DJ Blast, let's get back to this interview. So before we left, we started talking a little bit about Montreal. Now, you've been throwing these super exclusive events, invite only, of course. I've been watching them on IG. Of course, you've invited me just so, and I'm gonna say it live on air because everybody knows this already, but it's hard for me to leave the house right now, man. I got two babies in diapers, and if I'm not working, I'm with them. So please don't take offense, but listen, I'm coming to I'm coming to one of these events. Yush is coming too. Big shout out to Sugar. He's in the building with us today. We can't wait. So let's talk a little bit about the marijuana scene here in Montreal. Now, we've talked at length about Cali, a little bit about Vegas. Moving over to Montreal, let's get right back to when you touched back down in Canada. What were like some of the things that you noticed just in terms of a difference, a contrast to the way that we sort of handle things here as opposed to back in the States?
So the first thing I noticed was that I can immediately relax because there's not like a bunch of cholos and crazy things going on around me. It is just Canada. It's laid back. It's real laid back. It's different.
You're not getting shot at out here.
No, I'm not
anytime
worried
soon.
about that stuff.
Right.
So there was that. Then there was also catching up or getting up to speed with what was about to happen with legalization. So when I got back, me and my homie, we started a clinic or like a registration office so we can help the community in the plateau sign up with the ACMPR, the Access for Medical Cannabis Regulations. So we just started that. We spent the next like 8 months gathering as many people as we can. I went real hard on social media. I went real hard in the community, in the plateau, and we signed up a lot of patients. So here we are now. We have this large database of people on our hands, and we got to figure out how to get them what we promised, because it's up to us and up to the government together to fulfill their needs. So I had to really learn that really quickly, get up to speed with everything from everything legal. I had to literally sit with lawyers and consultants and learn from scratch what was going on. I had to read all 160 pages over and over and over again until I knew exactly what was going on. And now today I can say I'm a medical cannabis consultant. I really went hard over this last year figuring it out so I can get people what they need.
So let me ask you this question. If we have any listeners listening in right now that want to make this jump, they want to get legal, but listen, the information is a little bit, it's not that it's hard to come by, it can just be a lot. It can be overwhelming. How would somebody go about getting legal? Now both for personal use and for growing. How would we go about that?
Well, both licenses are under the same roof of the ACMPR. So what the person needs initially is a medical history. It's pretty broad what cannabis treats, so it's not really difficult for people to get prescribed. But they do need something there that this helps and has been helping. And then you just fill out the necessary documentation. You bring your Medicare card, you bring whatever medical documents you have to one of these clinics in your neighborhood. You're starting to see them pop up everywhere.
Definitely.
Right, so you can just go online and do your research. And you can do everything through online. But I do recommend people go out to their community center and they actually go and speak to somebody, one of these consultants who could really educate them through the entire process, make sure there's no mistakes, make sure that they get their licenses nice and smooth, and that they know what they're getting into. So, like I said, if you want to become a patient, you just need the necessary documentation and a registration fee. I'm not sure exactly what it is right now. It all depends on what grammage you have, but very easy process. If you want to become a grower, it's also easy, but there's a little more to it. They need to do a little bit of a background check. They need to see where you're getting the funds from to make this happen. And you're also going to have to adhere to some more strict guidelines and and paperwork and showing, where all your produce is going and how you're growing it and these sort of things.
So it's definitely accounted for, because a lot of the people that I talk to, for whatever reason, think that you could just buy one of these scripts and start a 200 light grow off in your basement. It's not that easy, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, actually, it is that easy. So if you own the home, you can go ahead and do that, right? If you don't own the home, you're going to have to get a landlord to agree to do it with you. This cannabis, though, this 200 plants, right? It's to treat one single person or two people at the most. The person growing and another patient that they're growing as a designated grower for. So ultimately, having 200 plants growing pounds, how are they using all of that, right? So we got to figure out what the person's ailment is that deserves that many grammage, and that's up to the doctor ultimately. So if the person has a severe aggressive case of cancer, they'll get a higher grammage. If there's somebody who just has some back pain, it might be a smaller gram.
That makes sense.
Per day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it totally makes sense. And again, people, listeners, you got to understand that jumping into this world, I mean, you're not going to get a 200 light script because you have depression. That's not how it works.
No.
And a lot of people seem to be misinformed about that. But you're in the building here to, of course, present some of this knowledge. Now, let's talk a little bit about these exclusive Prime Minister events that I've been watching so feverishly on my IG. Let's talk a little bit about these, man. First of all, how did you get started with the events, and what goes on at these crazy secret events, man?
There you go. Okay, well, first of all, like I said before, I saw the future, right? And one of the major pieces of the future, one to progress medical and recreational, and also to preserve the culture, were these secret sessions. There are these, I guess you could call them events, parties, workshops, whatever you want to call it, but it's a gathering of people who are like-minded, who are coming together to celebrate and learn about cannabis in one place. And I noticed that that's an important part of the growth of this. And it's something that if I didn't take seriously when coming back here to preserve, we may lose completely. We don't want to lose that. We want that to always be strong, because we're the leaders of this. As far as there's the suits who come with the money, and then there's the people who've been doing this for decades, who really have the knowledge and who really have the passion behind it. And a room like this where I throw an event brings together all these people, and we get to celebrate and learn together, and at the same time help patients get access. One of the things that all these patients I signed up didn't get was fully what they're promised. For example, legalization's coming, but even when legalization comes, edibles and concentrates won't be legal. And most of the patients I have are actually transitioning into that stuff or come from that. So to say, no, you're not allowed to have edibles, you have to smoke this cannabis, this dry cannabis, a lot of them, they don't want that, and they're scared to do it, make it themselves. So we offer a place where they can come and get actually lab-tested, safe, proper ACMPR grown products for them to try, and then also at the same time they learn. They learn how it's done, how they can do it themselves, and how to dose properly, and all these, what to look for when they're looking at quality, all these things that as they're getting introduced into this new world of medical cannabis, they really need someone to come and help with the curve, the learning curve. So I made these events to really educate Quebec on concentrates specifically, which is what's going into edibles as well now.
It's kind of crazy that when you think of legalization and edibles especially in particular not being under that umbrella, because really if you think about it, the healthiest way to consume the medicine is definitely to eat it over smoking it. I mean, of course it's not as bad as cigarettes, but at the end of the day you are burning a substance and inhaling it, and there are carcinogens in that. So you would think that if legalization was really an issue of morality, of course edibles would be at the top of the list. So things like this really kind of let you know where the government's mind is at.
They're backwards.
It's all about the envelope.
Yes, we know that. Like you said, there's much safer ways than carcinogens, and it's a conspiracy. At the end of the day, it's a grand conspiracy.
Shout out to Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, it has to do with pharma and opiates. It has to do with, everything. They're still telling us to eat things that kill us. So
Absolutely.
they're not completely trying to protect us or keep us safe. This is about how to make the most money. And they're going to ravage the environment when they do it. They're going to ravage people's health. There's going to be a lot of mistakes coming up. But we can't get militant towards it because it's good. It's something when we're young getting in trouble for this stuff or seeing people lose their lives for it. we were like, this is backwards to lock people up for this, or this is backwards to not let us use it. It's crazy. So we're moving forward, we're also moving 10 steps back, and that's one of them right there. Edibles and concentrates are the safe way to do this, and they're saying, no, we'd rather you do the unhealthy way. So yeah, we got a problem.
It's crazy, man, because at the end of the day, it's just all about greasing the palms, and you would like to think that they would have our best interests at mind, or that a social democracy would actually be somewhere that's democratic, but as always, it's about the money. What else is new? Let's talk a little bit about some of these products. Now, you came with these beautifully rolled, and by the way, they smelled absolutely beautiful. I did not partake yet. I'm saving that for a little bit later. Shout out to Natasha. We're gonna go in, but. These beautifully rolled, beautifully presented Prime Minister pre-rolls. Let's talk a little bit about the different flavors. Let's talk about the strains that go into this. Let's just talk about some of these products because I'm hella interested. I can't lie.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can tell.
No problem. So what it is it's craft. It's craft cannabis. It's actually someone working with their hands trying to make something special for people to enjoy. And what a Prime Minister pre-roll is a party blunt. It has about 2-3 grams in it. It's something you and a bunch of people are gonna smoke together. I don't smoke much. I'm actually someone who dabs. I do concentrates, right? But I do understand that we come from a history of cultural, not brainwashing, but like it's a part of a connector to smoke, right?
Absolutely.
So I know that transitioning them into healthier ways of smoking was one of my priorities. I don't want to take a patient and say, yeah, here, smoke this weed off the street, whatever, in this unhealthy wrap or whatever Chinese materials. I don't know. All I know is that I can get the safest wraps, the healthiest terpenes, and lab-tested materials, and you should be smoking that instead. So I want to use these pre-rolls to sort of educate people at the events on the direction they should be taking their smoking habit. And then also even transition them into concentrates off of that. But what it is it's just something artisanal, it's just something craft, and it's something I can market and it's for fun. But really what it is I'm a caregiver, so I have people who have their own medication, their own lab-tested licensed producer medication, and they don't know how to roll, and they don't necessarily want to roll big party blunts, right? So they want it to be perfect and consistent every time. So I have a service where they can drop off their medication with me, and I'll roll it up for them and make it look pretty. That's what I do.
That's tremendous. That's so tremendous. Now, you were talking a little bit about concentrates, and before we go ahead and do the whole social media thing and this and that, let's talk about this a little bit because I myself, I'm not really into the dabs. It's not that I don't like them. I'm old school. I'm a smoker. I like to roll a joint, smoke it up. That's just how we do. But let's talk about a little bit about the differences between dabs and just smoking a regular joint because not all of you would think all of my listeners are avid weed smokers, but of course not everybody smokes. About 3% of my listeners that probably don't smoke. So let's treat this as though nobody has any knowledge. What are the pros and cons of concentrates versus old school?
So old school it seemed to be very wasteful, right? It's something you're burning. You're basically destroying it. And also, as we know, carcinogens aren't good for you. So it's just not ultimately healthy. If you're saying I have lung cancer but I'm using medical cannabis, we probably don't want you to smoke it, right? So concentrates it's the oils, it's the essential oils, the terpenoids and flavonoids and the trichomes are producing this oily substance, and it comes in many different variants from, shatter to rosin to distillate to all over, right? And the thing with that stuff is you low temp it, or you can vaporize it at several different temperatures. And at certain temperatures, you activate certain parts of the cannabinoids or certain cannabinoids within it. So if you are somebody who's looking for myrcene or something that's going to make you go to sleep at night, you don't want to necessarily burn it at too high or too low of a temperature so you don't get its full effect. So it's really getting it down to a science with the concentrates. We're starting to figure out how to administer very, very clean oils at the right temperatures so people get the right medicine they're looking for or medicated properly. It's just the future of doing this. It's not, we smoked it before because we didn't really know what we were doing and we didn't have any other choice, and it worked. But we just found the hybrid, the progression, we found the next level. And these events are about getting people from the old school into the doors, educating them about things I'm telling you right now. I could sit here for hours all night high and tell you about this stuff. But I just try to get some points across so that they know it's a long journey. And if you come to these events slowly, you'll know more and more each time until you yourself will go home as an expert and make the right decisions on what you want to do. So whether you want to continue dabbing or continue smoking, whatever, at least you'll be doing those things better and healthier.
With the knowledge. Now, how much higher do you get dabbing than you do just smoking?
You get much higher. It is more potent, right?
So you get much higher.
Yeah, so let's say the top shelf weed I was smoking out in Las Vegas was like 30%, 31%, right? And that's heavy. That's a lot of THC for a bud. Now, the research and development in THC went the opposite direction and went into the oils out there. So they started figuring out how to get those potencies up instead of focusing on the genetics. So you're getting 70, 80, 90% or more up in distillates of THC. So when you take a dab, it's fully potent. You don't need to hold it in, you don't need to take a second one, you don't need to take a big one, right? You are getting medicated 100%. Do you need that much? Not necessarily. You can switch to something like rosin, which is a little bit, it's like 60% THC.
It won't hit you as hard.
It won't hit you as hard, but it'll hit you hard.
Hit you hard.
Yeah, and then there's also the strains for you. So there's some strains that are going to negatively affect you. There's some that are going to positively affect you. There's some strains out there that you never really got in your system. So the first time you even smoke it, forget dab it, just smoke it. You're going to feel some major effects, right? Whenever you switch strains, it kind of hits you hard.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily always the percentage of potency that's going to have that effect. It's really what gels with the person and their medical needs.
Yeah, there's definitely a number of variables. I myself, I'm a sativa lover. I love an energetic, creative buzz. I don't necessarily, I'll smoke a heavy indica late at night just to make sure, you get that peaceful rest for the 2 hours that I do get to sleep, provided there's nobody crying. But no, I'm definitely a sativa lover at heart. Again, I love the energy of it. I love to be able to know that I'm going to smoke something and not necessarily want to sit down and watch TV. I want to get up, do something, go out, get something done, So there's definitely different flavors or different strokes for different folks, like there is with everything else. I'm kind of glad to hear that translates over to the concentrates as well.
Yeah, well, you're a creative mind. You're a high energy person to begin with. So I guess you just feel like it enhances who you already are when you're on sativas. Yeah. That's a good thing, man. Keep going with it. What I will say is that there's no such thing as sativa. It's all actually kind of a big mix-up.
It's an urban legend. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yeah, they've discovered recently that there's no such thing really. Sativa comes from the ruderalis, which is mostly a hemp, and it just was used to cross with the indicas and afghanicas to make them dumb down in their level of myrcene so that it wouldn't make you feel couch-locked or tired. So you get different effects out of it. So yeah, there's actually no such thing, but what you are smoking are indicas that have low levels of myrcene, so you don't get tired, you get uplifted.
Way to make me feel stupid. Just science. For the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm joking. Definitely, man. So listen, time is beginning to get away from us. It is already 7:37, ladies and gentlemen. So before we go any further, please plug your social medias or just plug anything where these beautiful people can find you at online, because I'm sure there's some listeners right now that want to know a little bit more about Justin Trudope and a little bit more about everything that you're doing and the services that you're providing. So where can these beautiful people find you online, sir?
Thank you. I just want to firstly thank everybody who's involved in Dabernac, the Concentrate Collective, all my team members who helped me make that go smoothly, and then also the people who attend. These are good people. These are patients and people who really want to support. So if you are a part of the Dabernac movement, I really appreciate you guys. If you want to become a part of it, you can follow at Dabernac on Instagram. You can follow at Justin Trudope on Instagram. And there you'll find more information about how you can get access to these events and all that fire. Also, check out the new Dabernac video that just dropped on the Dabernac YouTube channel. It's made by Michael Jacobs Films.
Shout out Opa! Shout out to the boy Michael Jacobs, absolutely.
He makes all my videos for my events and they come out looking just proper.
I believe
obviously, yeah. So go check out that and share it on Facebook, because I don't mess with Facebook. I'm not a waste man. So if you are, you can put it on Facebook and make me blow up. So
shots. We'll definitely be posting that a little bit later on tonight on the Heavy Hitters Radio Facebook page, as well as the links to his social medias, because man, if you like to smoke pot, or if you actually have an ailment and are tired of taking pills that give you a list of side effects longer than what was already ailing you to begin with, then you should definitely probably look into an alternative such as medical marijuana. Now, I do want to thank you for coming through. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the show if you want. We're going to play some music, and if we can get into some hip-hop, we definitely can. You look like you got something you want to get off your chest before we get out of here.
One more thing I got to say.
Go ahead.
Every 9:30 a.m. weekdays on Instagram Live, my coach and I, we do Earn Your High. So if you're somebody who wants to get medicated early before you wake and bake, you can join us, open up your body, stretch it out, do some yoga, make sure you feel good, get your heart pumping a little. Then you don't have to feel guilty and shameful when you go hit that thing in the morning.
I like that.
And then Prime Minister approved, look out for that hashtag anywhere. You shouldn't be smoking it or ingesting it or dabbing it if it's not Prime Minister approved. My influence is important moving forward. I want to keep people safe and away from the bad stuff. So look out for Prime Minister approved where you can. And shout out MakeWay, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.